Hello, my name is Quincy McGee, and today I want to talk about the decision and the plan to move forward with Windows 10 from Windows XP. There are many components involved in this migration, but today I would like to focus on the training aspect of this migration and the steps necessary to ensure our success. So why are training sessions important for our migration? On the next slide, I'll give an overview of the steps I have compiled to ensure a seamless migration to Windows 10 by ensuring everyone is trained to utilize the new software. To achieve this training goal, I have the following steps to ensure seamless migration to Windows 10. I will cover why these training sessions are important for our migration. I will then show what steps we are taking to achieve our training needs and goals, and explain each action along with a timeline of execution. Finally, we'll give a summarization of our findings. So why are we doing this? The main concern that we found from the various teams out there that's involved in this migration is our personnel's productivity. Anytime productivity slides in a situation like this, you have a huge problem because it all relies on making sure your users are able to continue doing their work efficiently. By providing proper training, productivity is more likely to either remain virtually unchanged or only suffer minor slowdowns as users adjust to the changes. Thorough training has been known to leave some users better off than before a migration happened. The amount of time our users would spend to learn the most crucial items to their work on their own would cost the company both time and money. The jump from Windows XP to Windows 10 will be quite a change for Tater's personnel, as so many changes and improvements have happened since Windows 10 has been introduced. A main part of ensuring productivity here is to do our best to bridge the gap between the two operating systems and introduce our users to the new functionality properly. Operating system and application training is crucial to performing our roles here at Taters, and it gives the team an opportunity to capitalize on real live questions and concerns and address them to offer a more directed training experience. We believe that when migrating from XP to 10, experience will be the best teacher for our users here, and the questions that will arise from that will be the best conclusion to our training plan. Failing to follow a training plan would overload our IT support teams greatly on release day. There's usually a spike in tickets during this release, but no training would ensure the worst case scenario. If a user is unfamiliar with an operating system, they may be more likely to perform incorrect actions that could lead to a breach in security, such as mail settings, browser settings, or even file sharing settings that may be configured incorrectly. So here I've compiled a timeline of what this migration is going to look like. Um, I know that we mentioned that we would use the week of August 28th to plan out our migration, but I felt like in the interest of training, we probably wanted to do a little bit of pre-preparation first before we got into the actual week of training ahead. So on the 24th of August, I've slated a preparation period where we can align our rollout schedule with the schedule of the implementation team to ensure our training schedule aligns with the availability of the new operating system. This will happen before the official start date of the week of August 28th. Then, in between the 28th and 29th, I went ahead and slated a Windows 10 general knowledge session. And this is basically just to formally introduce our users to Windows 10. Then on the 29th, we wanted to get into what I'm calling a crossover training or a migration training. And what this will involve is identifying the commonly used tools in Tater's XP environment today and then educate those users on where they can find those applications in the new operating system. And in the event that application doesn't exist any longer in Windows 10, then we would use our best effort to find a replacement application for them in Windows 10. On the 30th, we would do a new application training. Here we would identify software that may be new to the users and then train on its general functionality. The last two items I have listed with a date, but I consider them ongoing because when it comes to training, you usually can't just deliver training and walk away. You usually have to have some type of period after the fact to make sure that your users are taking to the training the way that we would hope they would. So on the 30th of August, I'm recommending a ramp up period. And this would allow ample time for the users to get used to using the new operating system. And then, of course, generate any questions that they may have on the new functionality. Then September 1st, ongoing, I thought we would line up a Q&A session, maybe more than one, depending on the feedback that we get. And the Q&A session would be a question and answer session to address any questions or concerns that will come up from this normalization period that we'll be having here. And then finally, we want to slot some time around that same time and ongoing to create a knowledge base. And this will basically be a database of frequently asked questions and then documented common issues. We anticipate that the various groups within Taters will all have their own unique questions. And in some of my upcoming slides, I'll kind of explain how we tend to use that information for this process. So let's start with preparation. Our preparation step will begin with a little before the release week, as we said. We want to make sure we have met with all of our related stakeholders. We need input from all of the major teams that we've identified with, such as the rollout team, the hardware team, and the OS testing team. Since our focus is training, we have aligned our training schedule closely with the rollout and operating system teams. Since we don't anticipate many hardware changes, we will only get periodic updates from the hardware team in case any major changes come up. The rollout team aligns with our training goal of reducing or eliminating lost productivity. We can collaborate and use their top anticipated rollout needs in order to help create our training regimen. Some examples of this may include what users in each department can expect to experience as the rollout takes place. The OS tester and compatibility team will have useful information regarding comparisons between Windows XP and Windows 10, along with what functionality may no longer exist for users after the switch. This team can also help us identify which applications may no longer work on the Windows 10 platform. We can use this information to devise a training regimen for the replacement applications and help prepare our users to migrate away from the old XP technology. And we would do this based on the priority of those tasks. So for example, if our finance department has an application in Windows XP that they're using to say do some type of payroll task, we would want to prioritize that piece of application to make sure that one, we have something that works for them in Windows 10, and if we don't, to be able to train on what the users should expect next. So once we've completed our preparation stage, we can begin laying out our training format to migrate to Windows 10. We will introduce the users to newly built-in functionality of Windows 10 like Cortana, which is a quick way for users to search for what they're looking for. Cortana works well enough to search for applications by name, it can find files by name, and it can recognize phrases. Although it is up to our OS testing team, the new Edge browser can also be shown around this time to get the users used to using a newer browser and understanding its security advantages. Since we're migrating from XP to Windows 10, I expect that the users would probably need some type of browser training since XP actually doesn't take any new updates for browsers or the popular browsers like Firefox or Google Chrome. Once we have the larger knowledge gaps filled, we can then use the rest of the migration session to focus on smaller but helpful functions. We will train the users on a new functionality called Arrow in Windows 10. Arrow lets certain gestures perform some type of action to a window. For example, we can train users on the drag gestures, which will let them maximize a window simply by dragging it to the top right hand of the screen. We can also showcase shake, where if several windows are open on the screen, the shaken window would then become the active window and come to the forefront of the screen, while the other windows would be minimized to the background. This touches on our productivity ask. Gadgets are also small but helpful, so they could use something like the calendar to make sure that they're keeping up with all their meetings, and it's in a convenient spot such as the desktop. Even more simple tasks like simply restarting or shutting down the computer, we would need to make sure that the users are well aware of how to do this as well, since that process does change from what's normally done in Windows XP. Once we touch on Windows 10 as an operating system, we can use the new application training portion to educate our users on the new applications that are compatible with Windows 10. It would make sense to give an overview of the Office suite as the last version of Office that works with XP is Office 2010. Since then, there have been many new additions to Office such as cloud integration. We should train the users to take advantage of being able to share directly from Office apps through the cloud. There are other applications included in Windows 10 that will be useful to train on, such as voice commands or the OneDrive integration. XP may have had some of this functionality, but it is old technology and more than likely it was third party at the time. Windows 10 offers these functionalities by default now. For our mobile workers, Windows 10 can now sync with mobile devices to allow our users to work with from any location using their phone or tablet. We should also offer a training session to our users on how to sync their devices to Windows 10 to get the most out of their mobile work. So after we've done the main portion of our training, we want to have what's called a ramp up period. And basically what this is allowing our users some time with the new OS and the applications that come along with it and make sure that they are adapting to it okay. And of course, there will always be some type of questions that come up that we need to address as well. Um, and we basically want to give them a grace period, like I mentioned in my plan, to at least give them that time to compile those questions, and I'll touch on a little bit later what we'll do with that information once we have it. Um, we will do our best to ensure all of the bases are covered in our training, but from my experience, the best way for our users to provide us this feedback that we'll need, um, going forward, is to actually allow them to use the new operating system and then refer to our training to help fill in any gaps. There's always going to be, users that will follow your training regimen exactly as it is, and then you'll have some users that kind of branch out and experience the operating system on their own and find their own best ways to use it as well. This will also be an opportunity to observe and determine if there's any large holes in our training and correct them for follow-up training sessions. Um, while we would like to, have the entire in-depth knowledge of all of our taters departments, there may be times where some things are missed. And I believe that this ramp up period would allow us to catch any of those and then would allow us to address them quickly before, productivity begins to suffer. So part of training is also, following up with our users and allowing them to ask questions after they have used the new software functions for a short time. And this is one of the items that I had on my timeline that is considered an ongoing effort. Um, the valuable data that comes from these sessions will help us to tweak our training sessions to better deliver training to our current users as well as any new personnel that is onboarded. We will structure these sessions to include users of the same work groups, as it is more likely that these users will be using the same type of operating system features and applications to perform their daily duties. However, part of this session is also for us to capture feedback from all the groups so that we can compile and organize the feedback into a knowledge base. So the knowledge base will be sort of unique as it is intended to be built with company experiences and user feedback in mind. Now, the difference between this and, say, going out on Google and searching for an issue is that this knowledge base will be compiled based on the feedback of our users. So it would make more sense to read about a common issue that's going on within the company rather than some outside source. The knowledge base will be built with the data that we collect from the sessions after our training. And this may also include the collaboration that we're doing with the other rollout teams. So we can kind of say that this will, kind of be both of the rollout team data as well as our users rolled into one. We then want to place this information in a central location so that our users can easily search for answers around specific tasks performed at Taters. The knowledge base will be unique to our company as our various groups will all use Windows 10 and applications in a slightly different way than the other group. This will also be an ongoing effort, and the knowledge base should be allowed to grow as Taters increases in size and the amount of new applications the company may choose to use. So in conclusion, spending the time necessary to train our users will ensure the continued success of Taters as it grows from an outdated operating system infrastructure to an operating system capable of increasing productivity by simplifying tasks and simply responding faster to user requests. There's been notes that the Windows 10 operating system actually makes some computers work a little bit faster by simply installing it. By structuring our training with proper preparation before the training begins, we will ensure our users have a general understanding of Windows 10, understand how to find their most used applications that they had in Windows XP, or possibly a better version, and have support well after the training to find the answers that they need to continue growing with Windows 10. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to implementing a thorough training session for our users.